Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barca News. It is December 1st, 2025, and Ronald Araujo has requested time off to recover mentally after that red card against Chelsea. Also, Hansi Flick has explained that viral moment where he was seen completely broken on the bench. And finally, Barcelona have made moves to sign an Egyptian prodigy. I'm going to tell you who it is. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. My name is Boo. This is the Barca News live podcast, which is on every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, where not only we discuss Barcelona news, but we also get to interact with you lovely people in the chat section by reading your comments, answering your questions, and getting that discussion going. And of course, since I was out of town, I haven't done a podcast in a while, so I'm very happy to be back here. I'm very happy to be able to read all of you guys' comments. Now, for those of you who will be watching after the podcast ends, of course, I will be putting timestamps in the description and chapters in the timeline in case you do want to skip through the discussion and get straight into the news. Having said all that, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment. All this helps this channel continue to grow. If you're looking for any Barcelona jerseys or merchandise, make sure to Goal Kits, Get Bag, or Fanatics. You can also get merchandise from any football team around the world or any sports, NBA, NFL, hockey, baseball, you name it. All on any of those websites. If you want to place a sports bet, not just on Barcelona matches, but on any sporting event around the world, you can, of course, head to Bet Us, where you get, I think it's $200 for free or $150 for free if you use the link in the description. And the same with the other websites for the merchandise. If you use the link in the description, you also get discounts, offers. And don't forget, right now we have, well, Black Friday just ended, but we have Cyber Monday deals, lots of deals, good time to be shopping. And again, with the links, you get even more discounts. So hit those links and go crazy. Well, don't go crazy. Don't go broke. Don't be Josep Maria Bartomeu and just spend all your money and then go broke. Anyways, let's dive right into the news. And as always, the first bit of news is the first segment of news is multiple bits of news combined together for the sake of brevity, because tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, we have a match. We have a very important match in La Liga against Atletico de Madrid, who are currently sitting fourth on the table. We're sitting first. By the way, La Liga's race is pretty intense this season. We have Barcelona first, Madrid second, Villarreal third, Atletico Madrid fourth, and only 1 point separates each team from the one under. Really, really tight race. By the way, I love it. I absolutely love it. This is only good for La Liga. You know, the last thing we want to be is like Ligue 1, where it's just PSG and 19 other bums. No, we want competitiveness. We want close races. That's really good for La Liga. So it's really good to see those four teams close to each other. But tomorrow, a very important match, because that could redefine the top four, right? If we lose, Atletico Madrid could jump to first place and we can drop to third. So very important, or second, depending on what Madrid does. So very important that we get a victory tomorrow. And of course, we do know now the referee for tomorrow's match. And it's no other than Ricardo Burgos Bengochea. I don't know why it's not loading. There we go. Ricardo Burgos Bengochea will be the referee for tomorrow's match. I got to say, I don't have anything against this guy. I think when it comes to La Liga referees, he's kind of like more on the decent side. Now, of course, this is all relatively speaking, because I believe that all 20 refs from La Liga are absolute garbage. I think I was just in Costa Rica on vacation. I saw a lot of monkeys, and I feel like any of those monkeys would do a better job at reffing than any of these idiots in La Liga. But nonetheless, out of this bunch of idiots called La Liga referees, he's one of the least idiotic. Let's put it that way. So, no problems here. At least it's not Hernandez or any of the other Madridista clowns. At least Bengochea errs more on the fair side. He's more fair than the rest. But at the end of the day, they're all absolute trash. But speaking of tomorrow's match, of course, the team trained today ahead of tomorrow's match. Final training session ahead of tomorrow's match. And there's some news because, for starters, guess who joined the group training session. It was no other than Marc-Andre Ter Stegen, and this is huge. This is very, very huge because, as you know, Ter Stegen underwent back surgery back in July. He's been out ever since, and now he has joined group training. What does that mean? That means that he's very, very close to being declared fit because, as you know, when you have a surgery, step 1 is fully recover. You don't do anything. Step 2, you do physical therapy. Step 3, you start training in the gym. Step 4, you start training on the pitch by yourself. No ball, or sometimes ball, but by yourself. And finally, the last step is you train with the group. And right now, Ter Stegen is training with the group, which means he's very close to returning, and which also means that those reports that I told you about last week was true, that he should be getting declared fit before the end of this year. And why is this huge? Because, of course, the expectation is that Ter Stegen will leave in the winter transfer market, which would be beneficial for everyone involved. It would be beneficial for Barcelona because then Barcelona can register Joan Garcia. Remember, right now, Joan Garcia is registered in the place of Ter Stegen, who's injured. But if Ter Stegen comes back from injury, then we have to figure out a different way on how to register Joan Garcia, right? Kind of like the whole Dani Olmo situation. So if Ter Stegen leaves, not a problem. We can register Joan Garcia, no issues. And of course, as far as Ter Stegen, he needs the minutes if he wants to start in the World Cup for Germany, which could be not only his first, but could be his last chance to start for Germany. After all, he's not getting any younger. So great news on that regard, because if Ter Stegen is declared fit before the end of the year, he could leave in the winter transfer market. If he stays injured, obviously, it's going to be very difficult to try to offload him, whether it be on loan or on permanent basis to any teams. Now, the other news, there's more news regarding today's training because Frankie de Jong was back in group training. As you know, Frankie de Jong did miss the match against Alaves. I don't know. I forgot who we played. It was for personal reasons. We don't know why. They haven't told us. Personal reasons. That's all we need to know, which I agree with that. That's none of our business. But he had personal reasons. That's why he was not included in that match. But now he's back in group training session, which means he will be available for tomorrow's match against Atletico de Madrid. And then also Hansi Flick in a pre-match press conference confirmed that Pedri will be available to start tomorrow. That's also good news. As you know, Pedri just returned from injury. He only played 30 minutes against Alaves, but tomorrow he should be available to start. And that, of course, is good news. I'm sure he's going to play 60 minutes. That's usually how it goes, right? Raphinha played 30 against Chelsea, 60 against Alaves. So Pedri, he played 30 against Alaves. Most likely tomorrow he'll start. And he'll only play 60 against Atletico Madrid, to bring him in slowly. And then speaking of Raphinha, Hansi Flick in a pre-match press conference confirmed that Coutinho will be available for the entire 90 minutes. Because again, that's just how the progression works. 30 minutes against Chelsea, 60 against Alaves, and then tomorrow he should be available for 90 minutes. And that, of course, is great, great news. To have Pedri for 60 minutes, I mean, to have Pedri for 10 minutes is already a blessing. You saw what he did in 30 minutes against Alaves. To have him for 60 is going to be a blessing. And then to have Coutinho the entire match, that's also a blessing. We all saw what a difference to have Raphinha on the field. What a difference, not just for him, but for the entire of the team, because his energy is so high, it ends up being contagious with the rest of the team also pressing and also playing with intensity, because how could you not? I mean, the guy just embarrasses you. You're out there thinking you're doing your best. There comes Raphinha. He's all over the field. He's going 100 miles an hour the entire time. And then you're like, all right, yeah, this guy's making me look bad. I got to do something because right now I look like I'm not doing anything. So really good news on that regards. And now let's do the comment section, and then we'll talk about Ronald Araujo requesting time off to recover mentally. Mamma mia. And we do have donations, starting with, oh wait, let me move here. There we go. Started with Shin, who makes yet another donation in an extremely long list of donations. But Shin says, holy crap, am I dreaming or is this an actual podcast? Just kidding, bro. Welcome back, Hope. Thank you, my friend. It's actually really good. I really miss podcasts. When I travel, I always miss doing podcasts. I was gone for a while because half of my trip was work related. I went to Florida for 5 days for work basis. I worked from, let me see, my work trip was from Thursday to Monday. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 5 days. And then after that, I took advantage of, it was Thanksgiving week, and it was my birthday week. So I was like, you know what, let me take a small vacation. I went to Costa Rica I flew directly from Florida to Costa Rica, spent 6 days there, or 5, 6 days, 6 days. Very beautiful country, very expensive. It's definitely like American prices for everything, hotels, rental, you name it. But nonetheless, it was nice. I loved it. I enjoyed it. But now I'm back. And of course, I did miss doing the podcast because that I always miss doing the podcast when I'm away. And Chin with the second donation of the day says, and happy belated birthday, my friend. I hope it was a blessed one. It sure was. It was actually my last day in Costa Rica. My birthday was on Saturday, November 29th, same birthday as Barcelona. It was my final day, so I spent half of it driving, in the morning because I was in the coast. I spent the first 2 days, first day I arrived in the capital. I didn't do anything. Then I drove to it's called La Fortuna, where the volcano is. I spent there 3 days, 2 nights and 3 days. And then I drove to the coast. I was there for another 2 nights/3 days. My last day on my birthday was my last day at the coast. It was raining the entire day. So I was supposed to go to the beach one last day. I didn't. I stayed at my hotel. Like, I checked out. And then you guys might have seen the post-match live analysis. I was sitting on a table and there was like plants behind me. That was pretty much kind of like the restaurant area of the hotel. So I spent the whole day there. It was nice though. I met the owner and I was talking to some people and we were just sitting there pretty much for like 6 hours. And then finally, once it hit like 5 p.m., I got in a car and I drove for 3 hours back to the capital so I could fly back. So my birthday, exact day, it wasn't that great, but the trip was, and that was my birthday trip. So I had fun and now it's back home. By the way, my email today, I logged into work after a week and a half, 416 emails, and then I had 222 tasks. I'm not even like close to being caught up. Crazy, but anyways. Java the Hut sets, people are hypocritical. They criticize Araujo, want him to leave when he plays bad in the Champions League. When he plays well in La Liga, people praise him, forget how bad he is when it matters most. It's a cycle. I disagree with that statement because you say people criticize him when he plays bad in the Champions League by praising him when he plays good in La Liga. But I haven't seen him play good in La Liga. So I'm not sure what you're talking about because he's been playing bad in the Champions League. He's been playing bad in La Liga. Now, he's had a match or two here and there where he did decent in La Liga. But overall, his performance has not been good enough for either La Liga or the Champions League or the Copa del Rey or the freaking Pee Wee League. So I don't know about how true that statement is because I haven't seen good performances in La Liga. Now, if you have any examples, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to go back and rewatch the match. Maybe I'm misremembering, but Araujo has not been good since Flick arrived in La Liga or Champions. Klaus says, Araujo is no leader. I can never imagine this from Puyol. The story of Puyol should be an inspiration. I want Araujo to leave in the summer. Man, Puyol is our forever captain. That's why we call him that because, yes, nobody compares to Puyol. I mean, the guy was a true warrior, a true leader. And more importantly, he truly embodied and represented what the Barcelona ideals are. And no one ever will match Puyol. Let's see. Let's do one more and then we'll move on to the Araujo news. But Costa says Flick needs a mental health break, not Araujo. Yeah, he sure does. We all do, actually. We all do. But yeah. Actually, let's do one more. Lanry says, is it just me who prefers the Casado-Pedri pairing? They're both creative and don't hold on to the ball for too long. Pedri needs a proper destroyer beside them to handle the tackles and ball recoveries. I do like the Casado-Pedri. But Casado, to me, this season has been inconsistent. He's had some good matches, but he's also had bad matches, and that worries me. I don't know if maybe it's the lack of continuity, kind of like what we saw with Eddie Garcia. Remember Eddie Garcia under Xavi? He would go, 5-6 matches without playing, and then boom, they would put him in for 10, 15 minutes, and then he would suck because, of course, you would suck. You're rusty. You haven't played in a long time. So then the fact that he would suck would mean then he wouldn't play another 5-6 matches, and then we put him back again, and again he would suck. And now that he's actually getting continuity, we're seeing like how good Eddie Garcia is, right? In all positions, right back, left back, center back, defensive mid, goalkeeper. I mean, this guy can do it all. So maybe that's what is hurting Casado. That's why maybe he's being inconsistent this season because he's not getting a lot of minutes, and when he does, it's so like far apart. So maybe he's rusty because last season, the whole first half of the season, he had continuity and he was really good. So I do like Casado next to Pedri, but again, I'm worried about his ups and downs, his inconsistency. Now, if he can keep up if he can repeat the performance of last season and keep it up, then yeah, absolutely. But at the end of the day, we also have Bernal, right? And once Bernal recovers his form, I think he's gonna be the starter because Bernal is miles and miles ahead from Marc Casado. Which again, why the hell did we renew Frankie? Right? We have Bernal, we have Casado. Shit, I'm liking Dani Olmo next to Pedri, and I'm not the biggest fan of Dani Olmo. So lots of options there, but no, Mo, you're crazy. Frankie's the best. You're just a hater. You've lost the plot. People told me you've lost the plot. How many times have I heard that before? Only to turn out that I did not lose the plot. I said Xavi sucked. Guess what? He turned out he really did suck. I said Raphinha sucked. Guess what? He was sucky because look how good he is now. I said Eric Garcia has potential. Guess what? He did. Anyways, enough patting myself on the back. Let's move on to the next bit of news because, ladies and gentlemen, Ronald Araujo has requested some time off to recover mentally from that red card against Chelsea. Now, Araujo has not trained since last Wednesday after the Chelsea defeat. The official version of the club was that it was a stomach virus. And, when that news came out, I said, I don't know. That's the most common excuse. Well, actually, that's the only excuse that the club uses when they don't really want to give the official version, right? When a player is about to be sold and he's not playing, oh, it's a stomach virus. When a player is being punished, oh, it's a stomach virus. It's always a stomach virus, which doesn't mean that he couldn't have had it. He could have had it very well because, after all, it is the season, right? Frankie had it. Christensen had it. But at the time when this report said, I said, look, I don't know, but that's the official version of the club. So unless we have other information, that's what we got to go by. Well, lo and behold, that it looks like it was BS because Araujo today arrived at the Ciudad Esportiva, did not train. He arrived with his agent and he met with Deco. And during this meeting, Araujo expressed to the club that he, mentally speaking, he's not feeling all there and that he needs some time off to recover because that red card, that expulsion against Chelsea has really left him, psychologically affected. Let's put it that way. Now, Hansi Flick did confirm this, sort of, during a pre-match press conference, and this is what the German coach had to say. Ronald isn't ready. It's a private matter, and I don't want to say anymore. I'd ask you to respect that. It's all I can and will say. Very classy, by the way, of Hansi Flick to just look, it's private, respect it, and that's it. That's all you need to know. Now, Barcelona are reportedly very understanding of the situation of Araujo and have agreed to give him time off because, they understand when you're mentally not all there, you need time to recover. And in fact, they appreciate the fact that Araujo has opened up about this and has come forward and has asked for help. And that's very important, by the way. If you take anything out of this, is this, that if you're ever feeling like you're mentally struggling, very important not to just bottle it up and close down. Always ask for help because we all go through this, right? We all have our ups and downs. And it's very important to have a support system that helps us when we're down so we can get out of it because nobody can do it alone. And, it takes a village. But let's talk about Araujo himself because I think there are two ways of looking at this. The first is the humane way or the human side of this story. And the other one is, of course, the professional side of it. And when I mean professional, I mean as a football player, professionally speaking. Now, on the human side, I think I applaud Araujo for coming forward and seeking help. I applaud the club for being understanding and giving him the time off. Because at the end of the day, these players are human beings. They're not machines. They're not robots. They are human beings. And we all go through tough times. And we should all seek help when we have those tough times. And we should all receive that help when when we seek it. So I'm glad that Araujo was brave enough to come forward and ask for the time, and I'm glad that Barcelona were understanding and they gave it to him, because it's very, very important that he recovers from this. Because after all, our mind is still part of our body. And when your body's sick, you go to the doctor. When your mind is not feeling well, you should also seek help. So very glad that both parties did what they have done. So that's kind of like the version or the human side of the story. Which, by the way, I've seen a lot of nasty comments on social media. You know, talking, oh, Araujo's a coward. He's a pussy, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that's pretty fucked up, because at the end of the day, he's a human being, and we've all been down. And that doesn't make you weak, doesn't make you a coward, doesn't make you a pussy. It just happens. And in fact, if anything, it makes him strong, the fact that he was willing to come forward and ask for help. Now, moving on from the human side of the story to the professional side of the story. Professionally speaking, this is not the time to kick Araujo down, right? This is the time to support him, to give him access to all the help that he needs, whether the club providing him with psychologists or giving him the time off or both or whatever he might need, right? Because that's not what you do. You don't kick a man when he's down. You help him. However, and this might sound a little bit inhumane, but I do believe that once Araujo is recovered and is mentally strong again and has had his time to reflect and rest and recover, it's time to cut the cord. Now you might say, what do you mean, Mo? That's like, you were just talking about how it's important. Yes, it is, 100%. And this is why I'm saying, you don't do it now. You support him, you help him heal, you help him recover, and then next summer he needs to go. Now, why do I say that? Because part of being an elite athlete that's playing at one of the biggest clubs in the world is not just having the skill and talent to be able to do it. It's not just having the physical strength and stamina to be able to do it, but also the mental fortitude, right? The reason why 99.99999% of the world does not play elite football at big clubs, the reason why 99% of professional football players don't play at clubs like Barcelona and Madrid, because in order to play at those clubs, not only do you have to be incredibly skilled and talented and incredibly strong, physically speaking, and strength can mean different things, right? I don't mean just like buff. But also you have to have the mental fortitude to be able to play at those clubs, right? You have to have the mental fortitude to deal with the requirements of playing for a big club like Barcelona. The demands, the fans, the press, it's a lot. And that's why out of millions of professional players, only 26 get to play at Barca. Because those 26 have what it takes, not just skill-wise, not just talent-wise, not just physical, but mentally speaking. Remember Bojan Krkic? He was compared to Messi because skill-wise, he probably was as skilled as Messi. But why did Messi become the greatest football player ever and Bojan Krkic ended up playing in the Canadian team, Toronto, whatever, who gives a fuck, in MLS? Because Bojan Krkic did not have the mental fortitude. Even though he had the skills, he had the talent, he came up through La Masia, he had everything except the mind. And after all, the mind is half of the battle. So if Araujo is showing that he doesn't have the mental fortitude to be at Barcelona, because he doesn't, right? An expulsion against Chelsea, not in the final of the Champions League, but in a group stage match where we could still recover from it. We could still qualify to the knockout, whether being in top 8, even though that's very difficult, or by playing the playoffs. It's not a done deal, and yet it's affected him so much where he hasn't even trained for an entire week. A player at Barca should look at a situation like this where, shit, I just got a red card. Guess what? I'm going to train harder and better, and next match, I'm going to come out and I'm going to prove to the world that that red card was just a mistake and that I'm better than this. That's what an elite athlete at one of the biggest clubs in the world should be thinking about. not get to the point where he needs time off because he's broken down. Not to say that players at elite clubs cannot have mental breakdowns and need their time off. Shit happens in life. Family member might die. Maybe you get divorced. I don't know, right? Those things can happen. And if you need time off for that, 100% understandable. But when you need time off because your mental breakdown is coming from playing football, a sport that requires you to be mentally strong, that's when it's a little bit of a problem for me. So this is why I say I applaud Araujo for coming forward. I applaud the club for understanding. I wish the best for Araujo. I hope he recovers. Hope the club gives him all the resources he needs to recover. But come next summer, he needs to go. Because not only has he shown us that skill-wise he is lacking, but now he is also showing us that mentally speaking, he's also lacking. Now, again, if this had been like, oh, Araujo just going through something terrible because someone in his family is sick, I'll be like, oh, dude, please take all the time you need. But no, this guy is like mentally affected by a mistake he made in a somewhat inconsequential match. I mean, if every player that we have is going to go through a mental breakdown every time we lose a match or every time they get a red card, we would never have players available. So that's my opinion. I don't know if I'm being too harsh. Let me know what you guys think in the chat section or in the comment section if you're watching this after it ends. And with that, let's get back to the comments and then we'll talk about Hansi Flick because he too had a moment. But guess what? He doesn't need time off because he has the mental fortitude required to be the coach of one of the best clubs in the world. Mahmoud Hassan says, hey, Mo, considering Coutinho's return, would you bench Rashford or find another place for him in the lineup? Your opinion? That's a good question. Here's my problem with Rashford. Attack-wise, he's great, right? He has the speed, physicality. His shot is absolutely out of this world. But defensively speaking, he is non-existent. And that's a big, big concern because you need all of your 11 players pressing. Now, what I would do with Rashford, I would use him as a rotational player. I would have Raphinha start, and I would use Rashford to rotate with Lewy, because obviously Lewy, 37, he's not going to be able to play 90 minutes of every single match. So whenever Lewy needs rest, bring in Rashford. Whenever Raphinha needs to be resubbed, bring in Rashford. That's when I would use him. Or you can use him kind of like a last-minute substitution, right? Oh, you're down a goal or you're drawn and you need a victory, bring in Rashford because Rashford can give you that goal. But would I be dependent on him all the time? No. Would I start him over Coutinho? Hell no. Obviously, on the right, you can't start him over Lamine. So I would use him as a rotational player or kind of as like a Luc de Jong. Bring him the last 10 minutes when you need a goal, and hopefully that he pulls a miracle and does it. Barca Mama says, hey, Mo, welcome back. Hope you had a great birthday and vacation. Thank you so much. I am very happy to be back, and I'm very, very happy to be doing the podcast. And Bisca Michael says the club can't see the Champions League in 5-ish years' time with how things are going so far. That's about the time mediocre players like the young Araujo will be free agents. Not sure if Ferran is renewed. Ferran is... Did he renew? Well, his contract is still 2027, and they're planning on renewing him. God, I hope not. I hope not. But if this team can recover last season's form, I think we have a good shot at winning the Champions League. Because last season, we were very close, right? We went all the way to the semifinal, and the last-minute goal saw us miss the final. If we can replicate this performance, and with Lamine Yamal 1 year more mature, with Juan Garcia, who is the kind of goalkeeper that you need to win Champions League, right? You need miracle goalkeepers. That's why Madrid have been able to hang on for so long, because they have Courtois. Courtois, the guy who can save you balls that most people cannot save, right? He's a miracle goalkeeper. And I feel like Juan Garcia is one too. Maybe not as good as Courtois, not yet, but he has the potential of being as good and maybe even better. So if we can replicate last season's performance, and with the help of Joan Garcia and with Lamine, who's better this year, I think, yes, we have a shot. But that's a big, big if, because we are in the month of December and I have yet to see a single performance that reminded me of last season's performance. Thomas says, any Ultra group present at the Camp Nou? No. Ultras are completely banned from the Camp Nou. They've been so since the first presidency of John Laporta back in the early 2000s. Carlos says, I hope tomorrow we play Eric Coarci, Martin, and Balle. The best performers except Balle. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, look, with how bad Koundé's been playing, I would just keep that lineup. Eric on the right, Balle on the left, Coarci and Gerard. Or if Balle keeps fucking up, put Gerard in his place and put Christensen and Coarci as our two center backs and Eric on the right. Because Koundé needs to stay on the bench until he decides, hey, I'm a Barca player and maybe I should play like a Barca player and not like a bum who's too good to play. That's what I would do. I would bench him every single match until he decides to show up. Let's see. Suleiman says, welcome back, Mo. We all missed you while you were away. We should have a birthday and throw a mini party for you if you were on with me on this. Say hi. Vamos Barca. Thank you, my friend. I missed all of you too. I missed doing a podcast. And let's do one more comment and then we'll go back to the news. But Dovanakos says, hi, Mo. Nice to see you again on podcast. Do you know if we can sign any defender January transfer window? It's highly, highly unlikely. Highly, highly unlikely because we don't have the money. We don't have the financial fair play. So most likely no. But who knows? But if I were a betting man, I would say no. I think we're just going to have to wait until the summer. All right. And with that, let's get back to the news because Hansi Flick has explained that viral moment. Now, as you know by now, maybe you don't, after the Alaves match, a video went viral where Hansi Flick is just sitting there on the bench, looking very distraught, just completely quiet, thinking. And then we see Raphinha go up to him and kind of tries to console him. And after that video went viral, there was a lot of theories that emerged. Right now, one of them was saying that, Flick is very disappointed in the team and he feels that has lost control of the locker room and that the players don't listen to him. So he just doesn't know what to do. And that's why he looks broken. And there was the club's version was more like he was mad at the referee, in which at the time I said, that makes more sense to me. I don't see Hansi Flick, being defeatist, thinking, I've lost control of the locker room and what am I going to do, kind of like what Xabi did with the whole resigning, where he felt like he couldn't control the team, so he resigned, and he was like, I did that and hoped that the team would react, which, by the way, that never works, right? Doing something like that might get you pity, might get you a lot of reaction in the sense that people are going to come up to you and be like, oh, no, what's going on? Are you okay? But it's not going to get you that reaction that you want, which is for the players to actually get off their asses and do something, because for that, the players need to respect you and they need to believe in what you have to say. That's how you get players to react. Not by pity. Not by like, oh, poor me. I'm going to quit. That doesn't work, okay? You might get pity from them, but you're not going to get respect from them. That's basic psychology, by the way. Go to the club and try it. Act sad and see how many girls approach you. A few will, to see if you're okay. But it's not going to be with the intention of like, I want to hook up with this guy, because they're going to feel pity for you, not attraction. So anyways, if you don't know which video I'm talking about, I'll show it to you again in case. Let's see. Let's mute it for copyright. But it's pretty much this video. There is Hansi Flick. That's where it begins, actually. He's just sitting there. He looks distraught, just completely lost in his thoughts. And then Raphinha comes and he says, hey, man, chill, bro. I'm from the favelas. Things could be a lot worse. He's like, okay, fine. Let's go have some paella. And that was it. Now, Hansi Flick was, of course, asked about this during the pre-match press conference. And this is what the German coach had to say. It would be a good time to go win against one of the big teams. It's funny, the image of that match. Now, he starts out with that sentence because he was asked kind of like a compound question, like, hey, you haven't won against any big teams. And then they asked him about the images. So he starts out by saying, yeah, it is a good time to win against a big team because we haven't, right? We've played 3 big teams, PSG, Chelsea, Madrid, and we've lost every single match. And then he continued on to explain why he looked distraught. And he said, I was disappointed because we lost a lot of balls. 2 red cards on the bench. When we scored the third, Marcus got a red card, and I had spoken to him. He's my friend. He's the most important person I have here. And I had that conversation in my head. Now, of course, Marcus, he's not talking about Marcus Rashford. He's talking about Marcus Sorg, his assistant, his right-hand man, who was one of the 2 assistants who got a red card, the other one being the goalkeeping coach. Here was a little bit cryptic to me. I didn't understand if he was just mad because Sorg or Marcus got a red card, or was he mad at Marcus for getting the red card because he had already spoken to him, right? He says, when we scored the third, Marcus got a red card, and I had spoken to him. He's my friend. He's the most important person I have here, and I have that conversation in my head. So it's unclear whether he just got mad because, damn, there goes my assistant, my right-hand man, or is it like, damn, I just talked to this guy and told him chill, and then he goes and gets expelled. Like, what an idiot, you know? But either way, he's saying that why he was upset was part of it because the team's performance, because they lost a lot of balls, but also because his bench received 2 red cards. Now, Flick continued, I wanted to take a breather. I didn't want to argue, but I'm fine, and I'm strong for whatever the club throws at me. I'm very happy to be here. It's normal for things to go wrong in a match like that. These matches affect you. You put a lot of energy into them, but then I go home and relax. I wasn't sad or thinking about other things. We're not at our best like last year, but we have potential. And this is the important part of the statements. Because he's saying, look, I was disappointed about losing balls, about receiving 2 red cards. I was affected. I wanted to take a breather before going into the locker room. You know, he didn't want to just go in and, which, by the way, very smart thing to do in life, period. Whenever you're upset, you're fighting with someone, take a step back, take a breather. Don't say things you're going to regret. Trust me, I've learned that the very, very hard way. So he's saying, yeah, look, I was affected. I was disappointed. I want to take a breather. But here's the important part. I'm happy to be here. I feel strong, and I'm ready for whatever the club throws at me. And that's a very, very important message. Because, yes, he might have felt disappointed. He might have been affected. But that's it. That moment passed. Now he's ready to push forward. And that goes back to the whole pity thing that I was talking about. This whole, oh, poor me, that doesn't work. It doesn't mean you're not allowed to be upset sometimes or feel sad or whatever. Of course you are. After all, Flick is a human being. But he's saying, look, yes, I was sad, I fell down, but now that moment is past. I've recovered, I've bounced back, and now I'm ready. And that's very, very, very important. So that's Hansi Flick's explanation regarding what happened after the Alaves match. Let me know your guys' thoughts and opinions. And with that, let's get back to the comment section. And then we are going to talk about the Egyptian Prodigy that Barcelona are making moves to sign. This is not tracking. This is not watching. And this is not window shopping. This is actual movement, actual actions to sign this youngster. And I'm going to tell you who it is after the break. Just kidding. There's no break. Let's do the comment section. Let's see. Where did we leave off? This is where we left off, right? Yeah. Okay. Mari Gale says, Casado hardly playing, so I'm guessing he's not fully match fit. I don't think it has to do with fitness. I think it's just, right now, De Jong is ahead of him on the hierarchy, and it's been mostly Pedri and De Jong. Those are the 2 starters, and whenever De Jong hasn't been available, Casado has stepped in, right? Because that's where he stands right now in the hierarchy, right? Frankie ahead of him. Let's see. Oh, Shin celebrates 19 months of membership. 19 months, bro. Did you happen to see the 60 Minutes episode last time with Lamine Yamal? I thought it was a fantastic interview into his mind. Made me sad. He felt like he could never be a normal 18-year-old. I did not see it. I did read some of the statements. I was gonna make a video about it, but yeah, really good interview. By the way, 18, man, he's definitely a lot more mature than most 18-year-olds. I'll tell you that. At 18 years old, I was a dumbass. Probably still am. But the way Lamine thinks, the way he expresses himself, the way he articulates his answers, definitely a lot more mature than most 18-year-olds. Definitely more mature than I ever was at 18 years old. But yeah, I did like, again, didn't watch it, just only read the statements. I liked it a lot. But, that's the price of greatness, right? I'm sure Messi was never got to be a kid either. Right? Unfortunately, with these athletes, how competitive it is and how high the bar is now, it's one or the other. You either get to be a child and play with your friends and ride your bike and play video games, or you get to be a superstar, right? It's not like the olden days where you could be a child and then when you hit 18, you can dedicate yourself to sports and still be on time. Now, if you're not playing a sport and training 24/7, by the time you're 5 or 6, you're already late to the game. So, yeah, unfortunately, that is the price of greatness. No one has it as bad as gymnasts, though. They start at 3 years old. That's insane. But I love gymnastics. Maybe I'm part of the problem because I watch gymnastics, so that kind of perpetrates the vicious cycle. I don't know. Chucho says, how can a captain act like this? Please get that lazy slob out of the club. I don't think it's laziness. Again, it's just, he's a human being. He's going through a tough moment. It's understandable. I don't think that makes him lazy. I just think that makes him not strong enough mentally to be a Barca player. Edward says, come on, Mo. Araujo simply bumped into the ref while walking behind him. How is that really a yellow card for bumping against the official? That was the yellow card was not for bumping him. It was for protesting, which you should know that in the Champions League, when you protest like that, you will get a yellow. It's not La Liga. And as a Barca player, you should know the difference. And you should know when to protest and when not to protest, and with which ref and in which competition to do it and in which not. All right, that's part of your training. You have to know your refs. And in the Champions League, you always get a yellow for protesting like that. So he should have known. But okay, let's say he didn't know. Let's say it's not his fault whatsoever and the ref was an asshole and gave him that yellow. What about the second one? Because that was absolutely egregious, man. The way he took down Cucurella, he wasn't even close to the ball. I mean, talk about late reaction. Talk about the reaction of an 18-year-old cat trying to swat down a fly. Okay, that's how late his reaction was. And with no need to do it. This was not a dangerous play where, okay, I just gotta go for it. Fuck it. No. So it was bad decision making. It was bad timing. It was just overall a terrible mistake. Are we going to defend that too? Did he also just bump into Cucurella? No. Paulie says, Mo, you're saying that like Dani Olmo, as you like Dani Olmo's midfield, you think Barcelona always have a second script for these players and make them great? For example, Eric Garcia, since they can create a player. I don't know if that's... I think part of it might be Barca. You have a player that you paid a lot of money for and is not working in that position. So, yeah, of course, a natural thing is to see, all right, let's see if we can put you in a different position where we can, extract the best out of you. And then if you still can't get the best out of him, then, yeah, kick him to the boot, right? It's about, and part of it is also the player saying, hey, shit, I'm not getting the minutes I need. Fermin right now is better than me, is beating me. Maybe I should try to see if I can work somewhere else. So, yeah, I think it's both. I think it's part of it is the club. Because, of course, you spend all that money on this asset and it's not working, let's find a different job or a different asset, right? And that's just something every company does, right? Because after all, a football club, that's what it is, right? If you have an employee who's not working out in that position you hired them for, instead of firing them, because since you already spent money on training them and time, let's see if maybe we can put him in a different position where they can shine, right? It's just, common sense economics. Barca Mama says, Shin, I watched it. Thought they did a really good job on the interview. Totally agree with you on being as that Lamine Yamal doesn't feel like a normal 18-year-old. No, he does not. Let's see. Let's do one more, and then we'll talk about the Egyptian Prodigy. And no, it's not me. I'm not Egyptian. I always get asked that. Are you Egyptian? I'm like, I'm not. I'm not Egyptian, and I'm not a prodigy, and I'm definitely not a 17-year-old. But we'll talk about it. David says, yes, I think it's time for him to go make millions. He must have zero weakness in every stage of the game, and especially if he plays for Barca. I don't want to say zero, because, again, they're still human beings. I mean, remember Messi, after he lost 3 finals back-to-back, he almost quit the national team. Then he took some time and came back. That's understandable. But a red card in a group stage match, I don't know if that's... I don't know. Daniel says, how about Lamine in the 10, Rashford on the left/right, Raphinha on the right/left, and Lewandowski up front? My only problem with that is I just do not trust Rashford for 90 minutes because of his lack of press. Attacking-wise, that will be a great lineup. Raphinha, Lamine, Rashford, Lewy. I mean, that's some heavy artillery right there. But I just don't trust Rashford to press. And since he doesn't press, that becomes a liability when we lose the ball. But yeah, attacking-wise, hell yeah. Those 4 together up there, I think they would cause a lot of damage. But football is not just attacking, right? Football is also defending. And that's when Rashford becomes a big, big weakness. And it's when he defends, or doesn't defend, I should say. And Shin with the 3rd donation today. Thank you so much, my friend. Shin says, I was always taught to treat everyone with kindness and respect because you never know what any person has going on in their personal life at any given time. I 100, 1,000, 1,000,000, 1,000,000,000% agree with you because, yes, you never know what a person is going through. And that's why it's important to treat people with kindness. And you might think this is kind of ironic because I always call people like De La Fuente idiots, but we're talking about peer to peer, right, face to face. Because look, Luis De La Fuente is not gonna watch my channel. Neither is Florentino Perez. Neither is Ronald Araujo. Neither is any of these people. That's why I get to curse them out. But yes, personally speaking, no, I don't curse people out to their faces. I do not treat them badly because, like Shin said, you never know what a person is going through, and you definitely don't want to be that person that pushes the other person off the edge. Anyways, let's do the last bit of news because we do have to talk about an Egyptian prodigy that Barcelona are making moves to sign. They're not tracking, they're not watching, they're not scouting. This is actual action to sign this Egyptian kid, whose name is Hamza Abdel Karim. If you haven't heard about Hamza Abdel Karim, I never had until today. He's a 17-year-old center forward, Egyptian center forward, who currently plays for Al Ahly, which is one of the biggest, if not the biggest club in Egypt. He has played 2 senior matches with Al Ahly, one in the Egyptian League, the other one in the African Champions League. I think that's what it's called, right? Not the equivalent of the Champions League in the African continent. I don't watch any African teams. He also played for Egypt's under-17, where he has scored 12 goals and in 19 matches. Very promising player who other European teams have already tried to sign, especially after the under-17 World Cup, where he played 4 matches and scored 2 goals. Bayern Munich have tried to sign him. Milan and Olympique de Lyon all tried to sign the player after the under-17 World Cup, but it's Barcelona who might be getting away with the signing. They've already been in contact with Al Ahly and with the player's agent because they want to sign him in the winter transfer market. Now you might say, Mo, he's 17. I thought you have to be 18 years old to make a move or to be signed. He's going to be 18 in January. Talk about perfect timing. So January is the winter transfer market. That's when Hamza Abdel Karim will turn 18. And that's when Barcelona are hoping to sign him. Now, if you were wondering, Mo, how can we sign a center forward with only 2 senior appearances? That's because it's not going to be a signing for the first team. Barcelona want to sign Hamza Abdel Karim on loan for Barca Athletic. Why? Because so far we have Victor Barbera, Oscar Gistao, and most recently Ibrahim Diarra, who have all been injured. So Barca Athletic are in deep need of attackers. So Barcelona are hoping to sign Hamza Abdel Karim on loan this winter. Al Ahly want an option to buy. And of course, Barcelona first want to try him out because it's always a big risk when you bring someone very young from a different continent. So it's always good to bring him on loan, see if he has what it takes. And if he does, we can sign him. And who knows? Maybe he continues developing in Barca Athletic. And maybe one day he could be a first-team player. But for now, the intention is to sign him for Barca Athletic in the winter transfer market. So Hamza Abdel Karim, let me know. Have you seen him play? Do we have any Egyptians here in the chat section or in the comment section? Let me know. What do you think about this possible signing? All right. Let's do the comment section. That's all the news, by the way, for this video. I still have to work, believe it or not, because I'm so behind. After this, I'm going back to work, and then I have to pick up someone. But let's do some comment section, and then we'll end this chat section. Katana says, if Barcelona gets back to last season level, they can compete for the Champions League. I agree 100%. By the way, I am seeing, is that the Egyptian flag? That looks like the Egyptian flag. So Katana, if you're Egyptian, have you ever seen Hamza Abdel Karim play? If so, I'll be interested to hear your opinion. Let me know. Carlos says, do you see Araujo leaving this winter transfer market? Also, Aitana made room for another player to win the Ballon d'Or. Speedy recovery to the goal. Yeah, Aitana got injured, man. Really bad news. Hopefully she recovers soon. But do I see Araujo leaving in the winter? No, I don't see Barcelona getting rid of anyone in the winter except Ter Stegen, of course. Because, you know, we already lost Inigo. And then if Araujo leaves, you're kind of not left with too many options, right? You kind of just left with like pure center backs where we only have Pau Cubarsí and Christensen, just 2. You know, yes, Eric plays there, but he's not, you know, I already forgot his position. He's a center back. Never mind. So we would have 3 pure center backs. You know, Gerard Martin plays there, but he's actually a fullback by trade. So I don't see Barcelona getting rid of him in the winter. Hell, I don't see them getting rid of him in the summer because Deco really likes him. I mean, he gave him a contract until 2031. But, yeah, thanks a lot, Deco. Let's see. DLL says, hey, Mo, welcome back. I would love to see more of Rooney Bardakji. If he doesn't get some substantial minutes, do you think he'll move on? I don't think so. I don't think so. At least not for now, because he said it that he's here, you know, to fight for his spot. I mean, Rooney Bardakji knew what he was getting himself into when he signed for Barca, right? He didn't come to Barca thinking, oh, I'm going to be the starting right winger, right? Because that's not going to happen. You have Lamine Yamal right there. It's different if you're maybe Estebao. Maybe you think, oh, I have a shot. But even then, I still don't think he would be able to bench Lamine. So I think he knows what he signed up for. So I don't see him wanting to leave. Maybe next season, if he's still not getting minutes, maybe then. But this season, probably not. And Katana says, I'm Moroccan. Thanks, my goat Unahi, for the gift. All right. Wait, but why do you have an Egyptian flag and not a Moroccan one? Let's see. Sean says, good night. All I think Flick needs to take some responsibility in the bad handling of Yamal. I watched a game where Barca winning comfortably, and instead of resting Yamal, he played him almost whole game. I mean, Yamal got injured with De La Fuente. I'm not sure what Flick has to do with that, because Lamine arrived with discomfort. De La Fuente knew. He still played him. He got injured. He knew he was injured. He shot him up with painkillers, made him play again. It's hard to put this one on Flick. Sorry, but if you shoot up your player with painkillers knowing that he's injured just so he can play, that one's on you. McMarcia says, Mo did not have a great vacation. My guy was still giving news in toilets. He was looking at news on the dinner table. Yeah, never stops. It never stops. But yeah, I was giving the news in the bathroom. By the way, the entire trip, I only mentioned it at my second hotel where I have like that brown door behind me with the cement. That wasn't the only bathroom I made videos in. The videos before that, when I was still in Florida, you can see glass next to me. That was the glass shower. I was also doing it in the shower only because that hotel in Florida, the table was too high and the chair was too low. So when I would sit, the camera was like right here. And as much as I lowered it, it was like mostly by forehead. So I was like, okay, I can't use this desk. So I went to the bathroom and the sink was at the level, same level as the chair. So actually, there was actually two sinks. It was a room for two people, even though it was just me. And I had the computer sitting on both sinks, like one side of the computer on one sink, the other side on the other sink, and the camera inside the sink. So I did 2 days like that in Florida in the bathroom. And then I went to Costa Rica. In that hotel, there was no desk at all. So that I also had to use the bathroom. So actually, I did videos for 4 days from the bathroom. By the way, terrible acoustics. I don't recommend anyone to to make videos in bathrooms. Not that anyone, I can't imagine anyone thinking, I'm going to make bathroom videos. Unless your channel is about pooping. Katana says it's the flag of Yemen. Okay. Yeah, because they're pretty much the same, except I think Egypt has the not the eagle, the hawk. It's a hawk, right? And then Yemen doesn't have anything. But I thought there's no hawk since there's the lion. But got it. Okay. Let me see. What else did I miss? Bam. I'm scrolling up now to see what comments I might have skipped over. Aliu says, Mo, how are you doing? Justice Boya from the Gambia. So how far is Barcelona on the FFP and the 1-1 rule as we are back at Camp Nou? We're still not under the 1-1. Why? Because we're still spending more than we bring in. It's that simple. Okay? Because the 1-1 rule is meant to protect clubs from overspending. Right? Because there's been a lot of clubs through history that disappeared because they spent too much and then they went bankrupt and then they disappeared. So financial fair play rules were implemented to prevent that. It's also to make it more fair. But a big point of these laws is to protect clubs from overspending. So if you're overspending, in other words, you're spending more than you bring in, the FFP rule is like, all right, we're going to slow you down. How? By making it very difficult for you to sign in hopes that you would stop spending because they're making it difficult for you to spend. And that way you don't go bankrupt and disappear off the face of the earth. Right? So as long as we keep spending more than we bring in, we're not going to be under the 1-1 rule. Right? And this is why when people are like, Mo, what are you talking about? Laporta saved the club. I'm like, Laporta hasn't saved shit. Had things improved under him? Yes. Has he done a lot of good? Yes. But he hasn't saved shit. The debt is still skyrocketing. The debt has not moved, by the way. We still owe. Actually, we owe more than when Laporta first became president. We're still spending more than we bring in. And guess what? If you keep spending more than you bring in, your debt is going to continue to grow. You're also not going to achieve the 1-1 rule. So when people say Laporta saved the club twice, I'm like, hold on a minute. He saved it once during his first presidency, not during the second. Now, is Laporta the best president in history? Yes. But not because of what he's doing now, because what he did during his first presidency. First presidency, that absolutely makes him the best president in the history. Because yes, he did save the club and he built the best Barcelona in history. But now, his handling of the club has been average. It has not been terrible, has not been great either. And the proof is in that, the financial fair play. Because for as long as we keep spending more than we bring in, we're never going to achieve the 1-on-1 rule. Anyways, and with that, let's end the podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you for your comments, your likes, your subscriptions, your donations. I'm looking at you, Shin. Don't forget to hit the like button if you haven't yet. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet. And don't forget to drop a comment if you're watching this when it ends. I don't think there's any more videos tonight. There wasn't a lot of news. Slow news day. Tomorrow, Atletico Madrid match. Unfortunately, no watch along because I'll be working. But of course, there will be a post-match live analysis. Thank you guys. And as always, Viscarsa.